Hello everybody, my name is Paps Manicott and I'm the General Manager of Propland. Propland are experts in the Australian property market, specialising in property investment advice to support foreign buyers outside of Australia. As you are well aware, the coronavirus has had a big impact on everyone across the world, both physically and economically. But an area that we are still seeing a lot of activity from is from our foreign investors who are still purchasing property here in Australia. I'm fortunate enough to have Anthony Sartari with us. Anthony is the General Manager of Metrocon's MetInvest department. Metrocon are Australia's largest builder and has been awarded the #1 builder in Australia 4 years in a row. Over the last 24 years, Anthony has held strategic leadership and executive management positions with Australia's largest property and building groups. He now heads up the MetInvest division of Metrocon, providing alternative solutions in housing affordability. Who better to be able to provide us information on how the market is positioned now and where it will be in the future. Hi Anthony, thank you for allowing us to interview you in one of your beautiful homes here in Point Cook. And thank you for giving us your time, especially during this very challenging period to provide our viewers an insight into the property market. I suppose the biggest topic is the growing concern of the COVID-19 and how it is actually affecting the real estate market in Australia. No doubt we all need to make fundamental changes on how we work and approach this pandemic. Have you seen an effect within Metrocon?
Well, look, this is very uncharted territory, so no one really knows what is happening. But I suppose it's day by day, week by week.
Yeah.
I suppose what we have seen is a slight easing in retail sales, so local sales, but an increase in demand from overseas.
Okay. Well, look, what is Metrocon doing to ensure the safety of their clients and also their staff?
So nationally, all our operations teams are working from home. That officially happened on Tuesday this week. In addition, our on-site teams are still working, so production is still very strong. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got about 1,500 homes on the ground nationally in Australia, and about another 7,000 in the pipeline.
Oh wow.
So this is a very busy time for us.
Yeah.
So we've seen some really interesting trends appear from working from home. In fact, our productivity has actually increased. It's potentially a model that businesses will look at moving forward.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I suppose the question we want to ask here is this coronavirus pandemic. Is it a property disaster or is it a buying opportunity?
Well, I suppose it depends how you look at it. Obviously, people are a little bit concerned about what is going to happen. So some people have delayed their buying decision. But what we've also seen is a lot of strategic investors take advantage of this because often people are looking for opportunity in the market. So strategic investors are flooding. And for our overseas buyers, obviously the Australian dollar, the discount that is offering at the moment is never going to be seen again.
Yeah.
So
that is true, that is true. Anthony, how will the fallout of the COVID-19 affect our property market and our clients' investment here?
Well, it's business as usual. Properties are still renting. In fact, demand for rental properties is high. So we don't see a great deal of change in the market. Now, if you look at what happened at the epicentre of this in China, realistically, what we're finding now with our agents abroad is that in China they're pretty well back to work. So 80% of our agents are now active. So if you look at that was a 2-month period.
Yeah.
So if we apply that to Australian conditions, how much is that going to affect a residential investor if worst case scenario their project was delayed for 2 months or their rental was delayed for 2 months? In the scheme of things, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good to hear. And I suppose the good point that you did raise there, is that the Chinese situation is getting better. So hopefully that does build the confidence there as well. I suppose moving forward into the future, do you think the Australian property market is strong enough to make a recovery from what we are seeing now?
Most definitely. My view is it'll be business as usual post this scenario. There was a lot of pent-up demand prior to us going into a partial lockdown.
Yeah.
Retail sales were very strong. If you talk to the major real estate groups, very strong demand for property. Record prices in Melbourne and Sydney.
That is true.
So that's softened a little. On the way here, I spoke to one of the largest real estate groups in Melbourne. I like to bounce.
Yes.
They've still got booked appointments for opens tomorrow. Although there's no auctions, they've still got demand, which was, to be honest, came as a bit of a shock to me.
No, that's good. That's good. I suppose the clearance rate over the weekend, especially in Melbourne and Sydney, we're still seeing strong, I suppose, auction results. So to me, that's showing a lot of buyer activity still. So hopefully that will continue. I know there has been some changes that's been made by the government, but over in Brisbane, they're recording an increase of 7.6% increase in median price. So again, the buyer activity is there. I suppose another positive point is that the Australian government is actually providing a stimulus package to help the economy and injecting almost $189 billion to assist the Australian people. I suppose with this in place, do you think it will help buy confidence moving forward in buying real estate?
Well, look, I think the government's done a great job to react as quickly as they can and provide people with surety. I mean, in my view, there's only two reasons why people don't buy property. It's employment confidence and buyer confidence. So at the moment, it's your employment confidence that's probably going to stop you.
Yeah.
Once we're through this and with that stimulus, business should be back to normal. That's my view.
Yeah.
I think, we already saw prices starting to increase, particularly in the land space. I think this is a great opportunity for buyers, local and overseas, to get into the market now, if they're comfortable and they've got sufficient funds to do it. We wouldn't recommend it otherwise, so you need to be prudent. But I see this as a great opportunity to maybe get some discounting at local levels, and potentially on the currency side, which I know we'll talk about later. Yeah,
definitely. I suppose it leads me to my next question there, where I was going to ask, and you kind of touched on it before as well, with foreign investors, do you believe it is the best time for them to secure their wealth, especially with the Australian economy doing what it's doing now?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose in terms of foreign buyers, we're not going to see this type of currency level for a while. In fact, the dollar hasn't been here for a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
So it's uncharted territory.
Yeah.
In terms of the stimulus that's going into the economy, I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
My guess is, with this level of stimulus, the dollar will trickle back up.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're bold enough, if I was a foreign buyer, I would certainly be buying now and taking advantage of that, because it's like going into a department store and seeing a 20% discount sign on property.
That's right.
That's not going to happen, because a lot of these things are outside the control of the market. So occasionally they work in your favour. Yeah,
that's so true. I suppose now the Australian dollar is trading at roughly 59 cents to $1. Like you make a very valid point there when you mention it's like having a discount. The Australian dollar hasn't been as low as this for a very, very long time. And then all of a sudden when it does flip and we're starting to see those 70 cents, 75, 80 cents again to the US dollar, I see our investors, I suppose, then making their 10%, their 20%. And that's where, I suppose, you mentioned again, it is a good opportunity now for our foreign investors to buy here in Australia.
Most definitely. I mean, there's very few opportunities in the world where, you know, if you've got $1, let's call it $1,
Yeah.
it's worth so much in another country. That is the case.
Yeah.
So they don't come along often. And my view is you've got to take those opportunities when they're there.
Yeah.
But once again, obviously, you've got to be prudent about your decision.
That's true. Well, should, I suppose, foreign investors be purchasing now during the COVID-19 pandemic? Or should they be holding back just to see what the market is going to be doing?
My view on property purchase is you never achieve anything by holding back. If you're in a position to do something today and you're comfortable with that and you can afford it, I'd be doing it. My advice is do it.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason why you've come to that conclusion. Those that wait generally do lose. So my advice, particularly with the way things are lining up, it's a great opportunity. What is going to happen? It's unknown. But once again, if you use China as a benchmark, we're back to normality in a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, that's so true. Look, I've been in real estate for over 10 years and I have been in, I suppose, a situation where there has been, I suppose, property turned down. And I suppose what we have to keep in mind is the long-term investment and making the most of the opportunities whilst there is a turn down. I think it's a matter of, I suppose, thinking smarter and buying smarter as well.
Well, historically, if you look at the Australian property market, over the last 56 years, it's grown by about 8 to 10% per annum.
Yeah.
Now, in 56 years, a lot's happened in the world.
That's so true.
We have a couple of wars, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq. We've had SARS, GFC, 9/11. So we've survived those.
Yeah.
Okay, you could argue that this is probably a little bit bigger than some of those, but you could also argue it isn't.
Yeah, that's so true.
And we've survived and we've come out of it. Now, our economy, and not just Australia's economy, but the global economy has been bold enough and strong enough to survive.
That is true. And we are still keeping resilient. That's the main thing. Both, I suppose, personally and also as a business and economically as well, we are very resilient. Our partnership with Metricon has given us strength to provide service to a wide group. We see 4 key areas why our buyers are purchasing here in Australia. And these key areas are 1, to invest, 2, for wealth repositioning, 3, lifestyle choices, and 4th is the, I suppose, citizenship enhancements. With the collaboration of Metricon, we are now able to accommodate not only for our wealthy investors, but also those needing to meet visa requirements. Most importantly, Anthony, do you think Metricon products are suited to parents, students, and the greater middle class market in Vietnam?
Yeah, well, look, the great thing about Metricon is that we cover all aspects of the market. So from your entry-level home right up to your luxury double, triple story home. So we've got every spectrum. So regardless of whether the customer sits, either local or foreign investor, I'm very confident we've got product that will suit. This beautiful home you're sitting in here is one of our top selling homes with our overseas buyers. It's quite a large double story home, but the buyers like the space, the freedom.
Yeah, so I do remember bringing one of our clients through this particular display home, and in a matter of a week they signed the build contract, the land contract, and proceeded because they do love the style of what your home has to offer.
I think what's really important to understand for your foreign buyers is that when looking at investing in Australia, you have to think like an Australian. Okay, you can't think like you do in your own market.
Yep.
The Australian property market's different. And it's different in the sense that in Australia, we live in the suburbs.
Yes.
We don't live in the CBD, we're suburbanites. The only people that invest or live in apartments in our CBD
that is true.
are typically foreign buyers. And so why we live in the suburbs? Because we want the space. We want the freedom. We want the gardens, the parks, the beaches. So Australia is a real suburbanite culture. So in my view, the best investment opportunities are in those suburbs.
That is so true.
Probably the other point I'd like to make is your investment is worth as much as the next person's prepared to pay. So if locals are only predominantly buying in the suburbs, it would make sense to invest in those areas.
That is true. That is true. I suppose, where do you see the Vietnamese market growing most? Because I suppose our other division, Propland Vietnam, we are targeting that market because we do believe that it is a growing middle class market, and there's a lot of opportunities to be able to allow them to focus on home and land packages over here in Australia.
Well, look, Australia already has a very strong Vietnamese population, local, who have emerged and collaborated, and we welcome them as new Australians. I suppose what I see Vietnam in a layman's view, from a property perspective, is the new tiger economy, the new China.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of manufacturing moving from China to Vietnam because it's more cost effective. Lots of Chinese investment into Vietnam, which is obviously growing the wealth of that country. So as the wealth grows, there's more investment opportunity. And what better place to park your money than a safe haven like Australia?
Yeah, so would you be safe to say that Vietnam now is what China was 15 years ago?
My gut says 20 years ago.
20 years, yes.
So we're going to see some significant growth and domestication, in my view, in Vietnam. And as you start, as there's an emerging middle class, typically that's when we see the buyers come to Australia.
Yeah.
And we're really looking forward to that, hence our partnership with you.
Yeah, I just want to elaborate a little bit further on what you mentioned, where you said that most Australians, and we have to start thinking as an investor on how most Australians want to live. Do you believe that buying a house and land package is better than buying an apartment?
Significantly better. From a data perspective, we haven't seen the growth in apartments in Australia other than in Sydney. That's fact. So the reason being is because you don't have a resale market in Australia for apartments. We live in the suburbs. We live there with our families. So travelling to the city is not an issue for us. Being 30 to 40 k's from the CBD, not an issue, because we have everything in the suburbs we need.
Yeah.
We have amenity, we have restaurants, we have transport, we have employment, we have all the infrastructure, and Australia is spending billions nationally on infrastructure, no more so than in Melbourne.
And I suppose the key positives about buying, I suppose, land here in Australia is that it is actually titled under your name. So you actually own the block of land itself. I know over in Vietnam the rules are a little bit different, and also over in China as well. So I believe that is a great benefit, because we all know that land does appreciate in price, whereas apartments do depreciate because of the oversupply that is happening here in Australia as well.
Well, look, very good point you raise. Australia is one of the few countries in the world where you actually, as a foreign buyer, have absolute ownership of the property. So under Australian laws, you can legally own property in your name, your company name, your trust, whatever it might be. And your name's on that title, and you own it forever. So no one can challenge that. It's not leasehold.
Yeah.
It's not incumbent on several other factors. So it is pretty unique.
Yeah, and no doubt that would bring a lot of confidence to foreign investors, knowing that once they do buy here in Australia, that block of land is actually theirs.
Well, that's right, and there's no need for to have a local partner or a local participant in the deal. You can own it in fee simple in your own right.
Excellent, excellent. I suppose going back to Metrocon's product, Metricon does offer a complete turnkey solution. It's very similar to apartments, turnkey. Can you just explain a little bit further of the benefits of a turnkey solution?
Well, look, what we want for our investment clients is that they enter into a contract with us to build a home that is totally completed, so that they can arrive with their suitcases and move into the property. So, in the Australian retail market, you don't get a lot of inclusions in the home. So you don't get your floor coverings, your window treatments, your landscaping, your fencing. There's a lot of things you don't get as standard. So you're required to do those after you move in.
Yep.
Now that's not practical for overseas investors. So Metricon has a dedicated turnkey package which includes all of that stuff. Clothesline, letterbox, air conditioning, heating. Fortunately you need heating in Australia. So all of that's included in the package. In addition to that, we've got some upgrade packages should the buyer want to add a little bit of luxury, add a little bit of outdoor, jazz up the bathroom or whatever it might be that suits their lifestyle.
Yeah, and I suppose for an investor, because some of our investors won't even step foot here in Australia, so once your build is complete, I suppose it's ready to rent.
Ready to rent. Very important point to make is that if you are going to be an investor, you need to be guided by the likes of Proplan and Metricon as to the product. Do not think like you would in your local market and change the design for your own personal needs or thoughts.
Yeah.
That product must meet the local needs.
Yeah.
So trust us in terms of our design integrity and the type of product that we're recommending that you invest in.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we had a client actually bought 2 packages of Metricon down in the northern suburbs of Melbourne where it is developing, and we inform them that it's a matter of buying now because we know where the market's going to be in the future. So they bought the 2. After almost 3 weeks, those packages that they bought actually increased by almost $70,000 to $80,000. So that's where, again, the opportunity is there. Unfortunately, with this pandemic that we are going through, I suppose if you are the wise investor, you have to make the most of it at the same time.
Most definitely, yeah. That's a sensible approach.
Well, Metricon offers many design options. We are in one of them, the Lonsdale 312 over here in Point Cook. The design, the layout, it's magnificent. People can see themselves moving into the property there, allowing their kids to be able to run around and so forth as well. I suppose, Anthony, can you explain why Metricon should be the buyer's, choice of builder?
Well, look, very good point, because not all builders are the same. And building a home is one of the last handmade products on the planet. So every part of this home is handmade. So the down to the timber frame where someone physically had to hold the timber and nail it in, to cutting that timber, to delivering that timber. There's not a lot of machinery or robotics involved in building a home. So the integrity about Metricon and what we do and why we believe we're number one is because we take a lot of pride in that process and the people that do it. We try and only put the best materials in and get the best people to actually physically build your home. Yeah. And that's important to us because we believe we've got a good product, and we back that up with a lifetime structural guarantee.
That's right.
So, we're backing it up, our beliefs, with the guarantee for your customers to say if there ever is an issue, we'll be there to fix it.
That is so true. I honestly built my first home through Metricon. That was 20 years ago. I have no issues. I still love the design. My family still loves the floor plan and the way it flows. We built for the future. So when my wife and I first moved in, it was just us 2. Now we have 2 beautiful girls, and they have grown into the property itself. So again, it's a great build. I can vouch for it that I built my own home through Metricon.
Yeah, well, look, obviously families are very important to us, and so our tagline is "Love where you live," and that's that whole essence of the story you've just told. That's what's important to us.
Yeah.
We try and build homes that we know families are going to encompass in, and remember also, people or tenants are also families.
Yes.
So that's why it's important to deliver this type of product into the rental market as an investor. So one, you get the best people, you get maximum rent,
Yeah.
and you get longevity of your tenant.
Yeah, and I suppose 34% of Australian residents are actually tenants.
Yep.
So we need to also cater for them as well.
Yeah. Well, look, vacancy rates throughout Australia, more so Melbourne and Sydney, are very low. So there's high demand for rental property. And that's because some people choose to rent as opposed to buy locally now. It seems to be a bit of a trend.
Yeah.
We got the rent investor market where they'll have an investment property in a particular area, maybe say, hey, here in Point Cook, but for whatever reason they want to live in another suburb because they want to get their kid into that school or their employment or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. Well, Anthony, thank you so much. You have provided us a great insight in today's property market in Australia. I believe there is a lot of concerns there, and there has been a lot of questions which I believe you have answered really, really well. Hopefully that will be able to allow the buyers and our foreign investors to get a bit more confidence in moving forward in Australia and buying real estate here in Australia. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
We will be back again with another segment soon. In the meantime, if you do have any questions you would like us to direct over to Anthony, log on to our website or email your inquiries, and we will try to include your questions into our next segment. During these very challenging times, please take care of each other and try to help each other so that we are able to return to some normality. Take care of yourself and also take care of your loved ones.